right, guys. So this is an interview we have not went over. We didn't go over it, and I think that it's actually really important to get into the mind of Brian Wright and company when it came to Stephon Castle, because he says some things here that I think are very telling as far as what type of player we're going to be getting.
I want some rest. Are we having fun yet?
All right, so our boy Brian Wright, he has some things to say, and you guys know how the narrative goes around Brian Wright, right? If you've been on Twitter, I mean, if you're only on YouTube and you're only watching this channel and maybe a couple other channels, you probably don't know this, but Spurs Twitter, Spurs fans online, they can be pretty rough when it pertains to Brian Wright, like really rough. I know there's so many times that we've talked about him, and I've brought up all of the good things that I think the Spurs are doing and going in the right direction, right? I've talked about how just silly it is how you could say, oh yeah, we're rebuilding, but then also say, no, we need to get rid of all these picks to get a player right now. Just all these different narratives, and Brian Wright at this point, he's not going to be able to do anything right until the Spurs are winning. Like, that's literally it. It doesn't really matter what moves the Spurs make. There's going to be a lot of criticism until they're actually winning, which I guess I understand it, but to a degree, man, the reactionary tendencies of certain Spurs fans, it gets a little frustrating, especially when I at least try my best to have well-rounded takes when it comes to our team, because I think they've been doing a really good job, a great job even. And I think they're making the right and smart steps into the direction of building a dynasty, because that's what you want to build. We don't want to build a team that's just good for a couple years. You want to build a team that's going to be good long term for a long time. And I think they've been doing a good job of that. But nonetheless, I do want to go over this specific interview because I thought that it was a lot of good information that we got from it. Now, before we do that, big shout out. Actually, I didn't mean to do that. Big shout out to you guys, man, for subscribing to Spurs Invasion. It really does mean a lot to me, the fact that we made it to 3K so quickly just after 3 videos. So go check it out. Tell me how you like it. It's edited, scripted content. So tell me if you digging it, not digging it. It doesn't really matter. Just, support it nonetheless. And I'm going to keep improving on my end. Okay. I'm like Jeremy Sohan and his 3-point shot. All right. I'm still improving. I'm still working on it. All right. So let's go ahead and dive into this interview that I already lost. Here we go. All right. No closed captions, whatever.
How far back do y'all go and look at his stuff? Like, I know he gets criticism for his shooting. He looks like
So they're basically asking how far back do you go when it came to Stephon Castle and trying to see what type of player he is and what you're getting. But yeah.
a good shoot. Like, his mechanics look all right.
Yeah.
And I know that's kind of a deep cut, but how far back do y'all go when you're looking at stuff like this?
Keep the inside information safe, but yeah, we try to go back as far as we can. As far as we're allowed. The more information you have, the better, and it just paints the complete picture. These guys are on college campuses sometimes for 6, 7, 8 months,
right.
And so you may only see something there that if you haven't seen it anywhere else, you may miss something. So we're fortunate to see him play there, but also see some of the things that maybe he didn't showcase on such a great championship team.
Even though maybe his three-point percentage wasn't there last year, do you look at his mechanics as something?
So they did go back and look at the high school.
That's something you can work with.
Mechanics and free throw percentage, and you break the season up into stretches. He missed some time. How did he shoot coming back from injury? How did he finish the season? I think you look at all those things, and on a team like Connecticut, you don't have the ability to shoot yourself out of a slump sometimes, right? So you get 8 shots or 7 shots sometimes. You don't get to shoot 18 times to shoot your way.
So it's like, how did he look in a system in which when you go to the San Antonio Spurs, more than likely it's going to be it, right? How are you going to look in a system?
Out of a bad shooting game, and so you have to take the whole context into the equation. So we believe he'll continue to improve there, and again, it starts with who he is as a kid and how hard he works, and we believe he'll make strides.
The word on this draft was that there wasn't a clear-cut number 1 prospect, that everyone's boards look different. How did you guys look at the talent in this draft coming into today?
So every draft is different, and so there's some drafts where your high-end talent is really high, maybe at the top, and there's some drafts where it's really deep, right, of quality impact players, and we thought this draft.
And I thought, okay, wait, he's about to say it.
That was, I get some of the narrative around it, but there were good players well into the first round. So, you just try to make the best decision for your team. We don't have 30 slots that we pick. We only have to pick 1 and, sometimes 2. So
this is the reason why I didn't buy that the Spurs were going to try to move up in the draft. You remember when everybody was talking about that? Like, oh, the Spurs are definitely going to move up in the draft. I was like, No, they're not. That it wouldn't make any sense to try to move up in this specific draft at all. Because even as talented as the top 2 picks are, even with Ricochet being he's talented, I don't necessarily think Stephon Castle is a worse player than Ricochet. Like I didn't really think that. It wasn't like the Wemby draft where it's like it's Wemby and then everybody else. And everybody else, there was quite a few people in that, first early in that lottery that are really good. But it wasn't this gigantic of a gap. There would be no reason for the Spurs to move up in the draft. That was kind of a frustrating narrative that I heard. But it was more so probably the Spurs just, throwing a lot of smoke screens like they always do.
But we liked what we saw in stretches of talent in this draft.
Outside of the X's and O's shoe mechanics, what do you like about him as a character, as a person?
Yeah,
he's like Kawhi.
Again, that willingness to sacrifice, and he was always he's kind of like a quiet, stoic type of personality. But you watch him when teammates have success. It didn't matter if he had 18 points in that game or 6 points, and he was fired up for his teammates, right? So you try to pick up little things along the way that tell you about him as a teammate. What's he like in that locker room? And there were just a lot of positives about him.
No, there's still some red tape
That's really cool.
to clear up, but can you explain the rationale of not using the number 8 pick?
I knew you were gonna ask me a question. I can't answer.
Oh.
I'm trying to avoid the word.
Yeah, no.
You use those picks for later.
Can't speak to specifics, but at a point in time, we'll talk.
How does it being a 2-day event now change? Instead of going from 30 to 31 in 2 minutes, it's now 18 hours between picks, 19 hours, whatever it is.
No one gets to go home for a while. So everybody's taking a little snack break, and then you get back to work. It's different. We're all going through it for the first time. So after year one, you sit back and debrief and kind of evaluate what are things that work and how do we get better for next year. But we're figuring it out on the fly too.
Personally, do you like the 2-day event, or do you want to get it all over at once?
We'll see. We'll answer after day 2. If day 2 goes well.
I hate the 2-day event. That made no sense, especially the timing of the second draft. Like I wasn't even able to watch it. Like everyone was at work. Like
it's a good thing.
How much does this stuff just like what Jeff and Andrew are talking about, the ability to just, again, not bringing up the word, but spreading everything out or whatever decision is made, just the ability to keep things consistent over the long haul? Because I know y'all have talked a lot about wanting this to be a long-term thing, like not just jumping right in.
I think the decisions you make over time, around your flexibility, around the adaptability with ways with which you can build, we've been pretty consistent with that, and we will. Like I said, we want to build something that's sustainable, and you got to build it brick by brick, and we hope to do that. But I think all the decisions that we made to this point have been under that premise, and
you can't, and that's what gets frustrating, sometimes, because you can't just let's just win right now. Let's just get all the players possible right now to win. It's like, well, okay, what's going to happen in 3 years? What's going to happen in 4 years when guys need extensions, when guys need a little bit more money? Like, are you going to have the flexibility to do that? Are you willing to really go in on one specific player right now? Like, it's just not the time, right? And I don't think, especially the free agent, I don't think it matters who the Spurs bring in. They're not going to be like a championship caliber team for a minute, right? It's going to be at least a couple years. 2025 is where things really go down, and that's around the time where free agents are really going to ramp up in the next 2 years. So that's what I'm kind of focused on. This next season is going to be very interesting. It's going to be very fun to watch, and we're going to be a better team, and we're going to, I think we're going to make some things happen, especially with a lot of Western teams being a little worse coming into the season. I think that it opens up the door for the Spurs to make a little bit of noise, for us to at least be on everyone's radar. But I'm just not concerned with any of that. I want to see my Spurs winning every single year, right? Like, that was so much fun. When I first became a Spurs fan, I think, gosh, what was it, 2000? I was a little kid, like 2003, 2004, I think, when I really became a Spurs fan. It was just so nice, man. Every single season thinking we could win a championship. Like, that was just so cool. And it's going to be nice again, to be able to experience that. Dude, there's so many fireworks outside. It's crazy. I don't know if you guys can hear that. I'm recording this on the 4th of July, so.
Keep going with that.
When fans ask, where's this team going, and they look at 4, and which you guys are doing at 8, what you do tomorrow, 35 and 48. When it comes to asset management, what would you say to fans that are like, why are we stockpiling all these picks? Why are we making the decisions that we're making?
That's what you do. That's what you have to do, fans.
Because typically it's a pretty good strategy. So we'll try to continue to make sound decisions with whatever we do. and we want to continue to improve the team. We know that we've got a great runway here. We've got some great young talent, and we look to build around them in the right way.
Were you tempted to move up? Were there some calls, conversations?
Yeah, somebody who worked in the business for a long time, I won't say his name, but as I was learning and growing in the business, he told me, every year I try to trade for every pick in the draft. and he's probably, a little sarcastic, but it's a great thing to just be active, be on the phone, understand what it takes to move up.
Okay, so that's what it was. That's where all that came from. I just didn't think the Spurs would actually move up. But I guess it was just like, what can you get out of it, I guess?
Move back, whatever it is. And so,
because you can move up and then you can use that pick to, trade with someone else. So I guess I get that.
So we've kind of taken that on. So
How does that foster relationships for later? Like, I know that maybe it sounds like a vague question, but just, being
That's
on
a
the
good
phone with
question.
people, talking to people,
Yeah.
and
That's a
and
fine, good question.
As everything pans out for years and years to come, like, how much does that matter?
yeah, it's a huge part of it. It's we're all competitive people, and we're competing against each other, but you're in the same gyms, you're on the same planes, you see guys all the time and you build relationships, and the more you're on the phone, you build work relationships, you build personal relationships, but when you have that trust, it makes getting to actual deals a little bit easier.
And bookkeeping,
Pop,
I think you guys have. Go ahead, Mike.
Okay, Pop famously told us that last game, he says, I'm ready to go. I'd like the season to start tomorrow. Was he more actively involved in this draft preparation than
He's always involved, isn't he? A little bit, just a little bit. They at least ask Pop a little bit.
he typically has been in the past especially when he was taking teams into June?
I'll say this, I've been incredibly impressed by the entire group. This is probably one of the most collaborative draft processes I've ever been a part of across all of basketball operations. So it was great to see, and I think the outcomes were great.
How does it being a 2-day event change round 2 now as you go forward? Because now you have so many hours to.
Oh yeah, you got a lot of hours to think about it. That's true. They made some great picks in the second round, by the way.
Okay, maybe these guys will make this move, or we should make this move. How does it change your strategy going into tomorrow?
It's a great question. We'll see. We still got work to do tonight.
I don't know if we'll get to talk to you much in the next week or so before free.
Oh, I mean, I don't know what just happened. He froze. Okay, are you gonna say anything?
Agency opens, but you feel like you've got the flexibility to be as aggressive as you want to be once that bell rings.
Yeah, I mean, once the bell rings, we'll put together a plan and try to execute. Free agency is always interesting because you can want to do things, but people have to choose you as well. So when that time comes, we'll figure out a strategy and go from there.
On that, Devontae's money, I think, guarantees on July 1st. If you guys made a decision on that, and I think it's Julian and Charles have options that guarantee by August 1st. Have you guys made any decisions on those?
No decisions at this moment.
Any complications with Zach's recovery from surgery?
No, he's doing great. He's working hard every day, and obviously it was unfortunate, but you guys know Zach. He's a hard worker, and he's super competitive. So he attacked his rehab like he attacked the game, so he's doing really well.
Thank you, Brad.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Good stuff. Good stuff. All right, let's take a look at the comments here. I don't know how YouTube comments are when it comes to Brian Wright. What a bad GM. We need a lot of things, and you bring uncertainty. I don't even know how to respond to that. The DeJounte Murray trade was hilarious. 3 unprotected first-round picks, and now he basically got 2 unprotected first-round picks for Pirtle. We have now almost unprotected first-round picks from other teams from 2025 to 2031. Thumbs up for Castle and thumb down on the debacle of 8. Would have been better off if that pick conveyed next year. Gosh, man, it's kind of insane to me how you make a move, you trade away the 8th pick, you get 2 first-round picks for the future, and everyone's initial reaction is that's a bad trade. That's kind of crazy to me, right? I don't think anybody can say with all the confidence in the world that it was a bad pick or bad decision or great decision. I just think personally it was a good decision, right? I think that's a fine decision. If there's no one left in the draft that you're interested in, you guys know I love Modest Buzelis, but if the Spurs weren't bought on him, then that's fine. Like, you use that pick, trade them away. You get 2 future first round picks, which is insane. That's a crazy great value, especially if you look around the league and see how much it costs to just get 2 unprotected first round picks. And then, you can use those for another deal or one of your, bigger deals down the line. So I just think that that's silly to automatically say that Look at this person. I miss RC Buford as GM. That's funny too, because RC Buford as GM, it's not like RC Buford was a really good GM, but I think a lot of people see RC Buford as a phenomenal GM more so because the Spurs were already winning. You know, it's not like RC Buford's decisions in the drafts were that much better than what's going on right now. I don't know where people are going with that. I mean, even Luka Samanic, I mean, that was RC Buford's guy. So if we want to talk about decision making and everyone wants to bring up Samanic, I mean, that was his guy. He said, man, you're funny. Absolutely. RC is literally above Brian as a decision maker. RC was in the room. He was in the room. And I think Brian is low-key great, just like Spurs employees should be. Okay, so it's mixed. But you can see here, fire Brian Wright, Brian wrong, strikes. Like, they have no idea what they're talking about. It's very frustrating. Anyways, give it to you guys later, man. Until next time, bye. Bye-bye.